I'm going to give you a quick little hint about what today's video is going to be on.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, what's going on everybody? It's your boy Will. So from that little teaser at the beginning, today's video is going to be about Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider, for those of you who are unaware, is another tokusatsu show that is about a masked hero protecting Tokyo or Japan or whatever city that he's in from the forces of evil. It's very similar to Power Rangers, but unlike Power Rangers and Super Sentai, where it's a team, this is usually just one person, or two or three or six or seven, depending on how many riders they want to throw at you in a season. But I will not be taking a look at episodes or specific riders or characters or my favorite series. This one is going to be focused on the beautiful designs of the Kamen Rider suits. Now, if you've seen Power Rangers or Super Sentai, you know those suits are relatively just spandex. Kamen Rider does put a little bit more money behind their suit design. And for today's ranking video, I'm ranking my favorite Kamen Rider suit designs. Now, for this ranking video, and like most of my ranking videos, I do have a few rules that I place just to make it a little bit more interesting. Number one, I'm only focusing on the protagonists of each series that will be ranked in terms of their suit design. So I'm not going to look at any of the secondary or third or fourth or fifth rider suit designs. That might be for another video down the road. Number two, I'm only picking one of the forms for suit designs from each of the particular riders on this list. And this is only going to be about a top 5 list, because if I said top 10, that's going to be most riders from Decade to ZO or whatever. I wanted to give myself a few different caveats to kind of make me relatively pick specific ones that I have loved over the years of watching Kamen Rider. So I'm only picking one of the forms from each particular rider on this list. That's just my rule. And number 3, this list is not being based off of any particular character or the series or how they handle themselves as a rider. I'm looking solely at the suit design, how it spoke to me, which ones I really liked, and also I'll probably factoring in some of the transformations, which ones I thought were cooler than the others. Last but certainly not least, this is a personal list, so, my choices are going to vary based off of your choices. Please comment down below, let me know your thoughts on which ones are some of your favorite designs. I'd love to hear them. And I know the other one was last but certainly not least, but this one's also last. Some of these suit designs may be their beginning introduction form, and some may be their final form. So, spoilers. If you haven't seen some of these Kamen Rider series and you don't want to be spoiled, you may want to not watch this video, because I will be talking briefly about some of the spoilers from those series. All the rules out of the way, let's get started. Alright, so starting with number 5 on my list, this is going to be Kamen Rider Build Genius form. Now, Build Genius was the final form of Kamen Rider Build, where in that series, Kamen Rider Build utilized what he called full bottles that had different elements, rather of animals or of like technology, and combined them together by shaking them up and putting them in his driver belt, cranking the belt, and he got a mixed form of those 2 different full bottle powers in order to create his different suit combination. Now, Build Genius form was a lot different because it combined all of those bottles together, and the suit itself was like a pure white suit, and there's a picture on screen, but the suit was a pure white suit with multicolored bottles on both the left and right side. It was his most powerful form. It actually, to me, had the most unique design out of a lot of the combo forms that he had. It was very streamlined in the look for it, but it really represented the type of motif that entire season really worked up towards. I really like the powers of it, the ability to kind of utilize some of the different weapons from the different modes that he had. And out of most of them, a close second for me in terms of favorite design would have probably been Rabbit form, but I just have a soft spot for Build Genius. I think it's a really cool design. The transformation's really sweet as well, when the entire unit kind of forms around him and then all these little bottles just connect to him. It's really sweet. It's a really cool design. I really like it. Of a lot of final forms, it's up there in my top tier of final forms. But it is number 5 on my all-time favorite list. Number 4 comes from a season that I enjoyed, but it's not necessarily one of my favorites. So Kamen Rider Gaim, which it's a good season. It's not one of my favorites. I think around the second half of the season it kind of waned for me. But Gaim has a form called Kachidoki Arms. This is his like second to final form, and to me should have been what his final form looked like. It kind of, the motif of Kamen Rider Gaim was very inspired by feudal Japan, but everyone had these locks that were based off of fruit. So for Kachidoki Arms, it was a secondary lock that combined to the driver belt, and when it was opened up, sorry, it wasn't a secondary lock, it was the main lock. It was a bigger orange. This is where this conversation is going. It's a bigger orange that connects to the driver belt, and when it drops down, it's like a shogun armor drops around him and forms. It's got these 2 long flags, and his weapon is a DJ gun. So he can actually like work a wheel, and he can rather have a rapid fire attack, or he can actually have a big shotgun blast. And it can combine with his side sword and kind of make a devastating blade attack too. It's a really, really cool design, especially utilizing the fruit motif. It didn't look as obvious fruit as some of the other designs were for the series. I liked a lot of the designs in the series, but Kachidoki Arms was one of those designs that season that really stood out to me. Kiwami Arms is cool. It's very regal looking, but I think between the two, I prefer the bulkier Kachidoki Arms. It looks more like it can tank a lot of hits compared to Kiwami Arms, which is much more regal and kind of more like a shogun. But yeah, between the two, I went with Kachidoki Arms. It just, when that first debuted, it just blew my mind in terms of the design of it, the way the helmet was designed, the way the armor formed around him. It was a dope design. I kind of wish that was the final form, but I understand why they went with Kiwami Arms. My number 3 all-time favorite Kamen Rider primary protagonist form design goes to Kamen Rider Double, and this goes to Fang Joker. I'm picking Fang Joker compared to going with Extreme. So Kamen Rider Double was one of the first Kamen Rider series that I really got into. I was really taken in by the characters of Shotaro and Philip, who were the dual riders who became one in the body. With Fang Joker, however, it was actually Philip who was the driving body for that particular form set instead of Shotaro. If you've never seen Kamen Rider Double, it's 2 riders that combine by using these little like memory sticks. They combine together and their consciousness all form into one body. Usually that is Shotaro, but in the case of Fang Joker's form, it goes to Philip. And Philip's a little bit more timid and couldn't really control the power of Fang Joker. So when Fang Joker first appeared, it's actually a raptor that transforms into a memory stick and becomes the main driving transformation for it. This was one of those form designs that initially when it debuted is also uncontrollable, so it causes the rider to go into a berserk rage. And it's the black and white aesthetic of it being just dual sides, really, it's so cool looking. And there's subtle changes with Fang Joker compared to the other transformations, where he gets a little bit sharper elbow pads and a little bit more sharper spikes around the eyes of the helmet. I really love this design. I love the transformation. It's cool, and especially once he learns to control it. The finisher is Fang Strizer, which looks fantastic as well. It's one of the more subtle rider suit designs that are on this list. It's definitely one of my favorites from one of my favorite series of Kamen Rider. Alright, number 2 is very high on my list, and I don't know if other people kind of agree with me, but this is from the latest series of Kamen Rider 01. This is Metal Cluster Hopper. This ranks really high on my list because the suit design looks so slick and so cool. I love the neon green mixed in with the pure metallic silver coating of Metal Cluster Hopper. The transformation is fantastic. It uses nanobots to actually form around him. And initially, similar to Fang Joker, this was another form that that the protagonist, Hida Arto, could not control initially. It actually took some support from his AI assistant who helped develop a actual blade saber that could help him control the ability of Metal Cluster Hopper. It technically became closer to his final form in that series. The series just ended, and it kind of ended at a weird spot, which is hard to kind of tell if they're planning on doing more or if things were kind of derailed due to the global pandemic that's still happening. But Metal Cluster Hopper, I love the finisher attacks for it. The design of the suit was very cool. And it just, when I first saw it, I'm glad it didn't linger on him not being able to control it for too long, because it really became one of his most powerful weapons. I do like Zero Two's design. I'm not going to say it's not a good design, but I went with Metal Cluster Hopper compared to Zero Two, just because Zero Two's design was very reminiscent of Zero One, and I just thought Metal Cluster Hopper was a much more interesting design to me. And the transformation really did kind of cinch the deal for me on that one. All right, now before I get to my number one favorite Kamen Rider design, I do have a few honorable mentions that I feel need to be said. So my first honorable mention actually goes to Kamen Rider Ghost, his base form, or Ore. The main reason this one's on the list, I'm a sucker for a hoodie. And the transformation was pretty dope, where it's actually a spirit that just kind of clads around him and you just have to flip the hood up. I think it's a dope transformation, and the suit design is super slick, and I love the jacket, and I'd love to have the jacket. So I had to give props to Kamen Rider Ghost for that transformation and for that suit design. I think it's a really cool base design that I think is one of the best base designs out there. Another honorable mention go to Kamen Rider Wizard. This is Flame Dragon form. I'm not going with the original Flame form, which is more so just the black with the red aesthetic on it. Flame Dragon, the design is much more amplified. I love the engravings on the shoulders of Flame Dragon, as well as the upgraded helmet design. And the red leather, although it sticks out really a lot, I do like the overall look of it a little bit more than the base form. So I'm not a huge fan of Infinity. It's just it's a little too much more than what like Metal Cluster Hopper did. Like Metal Cluster Hopper was a lot smoother, whereas Infinity was too crystally, and I didn't really. I liked Wizard, and Wizard was another series that I got to watch all the way through. I really like Haruto as a lead rider, and I just think of all of his forms, I like Flame Dragon a little bit more. Kamen Rider Decade! I actually squeezed him on my honorable mentions list for his base form. Decade was a season where he was able to utilize different transformations of the previous riders before his season. But his base form, I think, looks really good. It's a very simple design, and I love how they incorporate the 10 or the X symbol into the chest plate of the design in a subtle way where it's not dead center, but it's kind of off to the side. It's hard to judge his transformations because he really only has the two. He has his base form and his final form. But I think I like his base form better. It just has a slicker motif to it. In terms of the series, I didn't get a chance to watch a lot of it, but he did show up a lot in the second half of Kamen Rider ZO, which was a series I got to watch the majority of. But I do like his design. His base form just looks slick. It's very similar to Kamen Rider Double's base form, where it's just a very simple suit design. There's not a lot of added stuff onto it. And yeah, I really like Kamen Rider Decade's base form. And the last honorable mention goes to Kamen Rider O, specifically his La Tora Tar combo form, which was the combination of the lion, Tora or tiger, and cheetah form. So this form was all yellow. It has a lion head to it. It's one of my favorite forms from Kamen Rider Double, which was another season that I really loved. The rider of that season was Hino Eji, and this not only did the form have one of the best designs to it. I know a lot of people like the Taja Jor form, which is the all red form. I like the all yellow one a little bit better, and the transformation music rocks on that one too. The finisher looks really cool. I like the ability that he can run really fast in this form. The all yellow and black motif looks really cool, and O's has a really great design, but if I had to pick one, this form is the one that is my favorite of his transformations, and why it gets an honorable mention, because it's one of my favorite seasons too. My number one, and this might be controversial to some people. I don't know, but this is all based off the design. It's not necessarily based solely off the season or the rider wearing the design or the story or anything. I'm going mainly off the design and the transformation. Granzio from Kamen Rider Zio is my favorite Kamen Rider design so far. It's just, it's if I had to pick an ultimate form or a final form for a character, this one was probably the design I was hoping for. It's adorned with all of the previous rider statues all over his body, and it gives him the ability to use all those different powers in different ways, or to actually summon the rider to assist him in battle. The transformation onto itself is very grand, and it's fitting for a series that is supposed to be the final series of an entire era of Kamen Rider. I can't say enough of how well designed those plates are on the suit. The transformation is fantastic. My one gripe with it was that it didn't really feel like they treated it as a final form or as a final win-all for the character or for that particular season. There was the Omazeo form that was treated more as the god tier form, and I wasn't as big of a fan of Omazeo's form as I am of Granzio. I just think Granzio just looks more of a celebration of past series of Kamen Rider, where Omazeo is basically supposed to be his dark form. And I just wish that they gave it a little bit more respect than they did during the series. But that's not about the series. This isn't about what they did with the story. It's just solely on the design. And as a design, it's my top favorite so far. They're still doing Kamen Riders. I'm sure this list will eventually change. But based off of what's currently out and based off of what I've seen, this is one of the best ones. So yeah, that's my list. It's a simple list. It's not a big list, and this wasn't necessarily a super in-depth type of ranking video, but it was one I was curious of doing because I am so enamored with the designs of Kamen Rider suits and the motifs that they use each season. I just really wanted to take the opportunity to kind of point out some of my favorites, and hopefully me pointing out some of these and you seeing the images float on screen, hopefully you'll maybe check them out for yourself. Check out these series. These series are great. They're not something that are brought over to the States too often, so this is solely a Japanese product, unlike Power Rangers, which has been adapted for many years from Japan to the United States. But Kamen Rider is a fantastic series, and I think their suit designs are amazing, and I just wanted to take this time to show appreciation and kind of show off the ones that have really spoken to me over the years. So, well, there you have it. That is my ranking list of my top 5 favorite Kamen Rider forms. Do you agree with my list? Comment down below. Let me know if you agree or disagree. What are some of your favorite designs or Kamen Rider forms? Let me know. I'd love to talk to you about it. You can follow me on all the social medias listed at the end of the video. Like, share, subscribe this video. Aiming for 200, almost there. Share it with folks. Help me get there. Really appreciate it. As always, thank you so much for watching this and all of my videos. I really do appreciate it. And until the next one, until next time, I will catch you later. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you did like this video, why not give me a thumbs up and share it with your friends? You can subscribe to the channel by clicking on my gorgeous little face right over there. You can follow me on all the various social media platforms right below. And last but certainly not least, if you've got a few extra minutes, why not check out one of the lovely videos floating right over here. Later.